Good morning, world. This is Edward Bevilacqua at Novum-U. Today is Wednesday, December 5th, 2018, here in Las Vegas. And it's an interesting morning. There's clouds in the sky. I first want to start by saying welcome to the first WellCare Las Vegas classroom. This will be day 3. We've had 2 days so far of 20 students in 20 new students here in Las Vegas. You've all had a great start. Thank you also to our staff who've been there helping. Cole, George, Lauren, John, getting it set up and getting the students on the way. So today we're going to talk about Viktor Frankl and his impact on what we're doing. But before we talk about Viktor Frankl, I want to give just a quick overview of what we're doing. So the purpose of our program is to help struggling adults learn the tools and techniques to be successful. That's it. No big deal. Just learning the tools and techniques to be successful, or the tools and techniques of success. And one of the things the law school I graduated from, you take a rule like that, or a statute, or a maxim, and you break it down into the key words. So in that keywords, tools and techniques of success. Tools, techniques, pretty obvious. Success, what is success? So for our purposes, our program, the things we're trying to help people learn is success equals having money plus meaning and purpose. Money is the thing that enables you to not have to worry about things or do things that you wouldn't normally do. So money is very important to our equation. However, money alone, especially if one believes that money is the source of happiness, that if you have money, you're going to be happy, that's just not true. And you need money to pay your bills and do things and live a comfortable life. But if that's what you think is going to give you a comfortable life, if the belief is money is going to solve all problems, that's just completely false. So meaning and purpose is what's key to success. And what is meaning and purpose? Well, we're going to talk about that in the context of Viktor Frankl. We'll also study that in the context of Jordan Peterson as we go throughout the next three weeks and 3 days, including today. So meaning and purpose, or our usage, the simple thing is service to others, helping other people improve their lives also. And and the easiest way to do that is just give of your time with no expectation of return. Help somebody else without expecting to get something out of it. That's the simplest way. So sacrifice. Give of your time to help others be successful. Don't do it as an investment. And again, the key part of that is with no expectation of return. When you do that, when you give of yourself with no expectation of return, you're going to feel better. Now, the reason you're going to feel better is because a neurotransmitter called oxytocin is released in your system, and it's going to make you feel better. And that's a neurotransmitter, if we follow Simon Sinek's reasoning and his talks, is oxytocin is released in our system in order to want us to do things to help other people, because that is what enables us to survive and to be successful as a group, not just as a person, but as a tribe or a clan or a society, a culture, etc. So for our purposes, the thought is, okay, well, who can we look at that really focused on struggling adults? Who could be an example as kind of let's say a mentor that we can follow instead of hacking our way through the woods to figure it out for ourselves. And I think the best person for that as the mentor, the guide, would be Viktor Frankl. So Viktor Frankl, who is Viktor Frankl? And that's Viktor Frankl. So there's only a couple vowels in there. Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a German Jewish psychiatrist during World War II who was arrested by the Nazis, and he lived for about 3 years in Nazi concentration camps. Because he was a psychiatrist, he looked at things a little bit differently than a typical person would, because he had training. And then, like only a few other people, he wrote a book about his experiences. And that book is parts of it are part of our curriculum. That is Man's Search for Meaning. So that shows you the thing. And it's not a big book, it's a small book. There's basically 2 parts. First part is what it's like living in a Nazi concentration camp. And the second part really goes to sort of the title of Man's Search for Meaning. So for Viktor Frankl, for humans, for people, it's about a search for meaning. What is the meaning we give to our life? And we watch a number of YouTube videos on that. One that's especially good because it captivates you, it hypnotizes you. It has a good musical soundtrack that goes with it, is Like Stories of Old, would be the publisher, the creator of it, Like Stories of Old, and it's called The Grey, Thegrey, and it's about a movie with Liam Neeson called The Grey. It was published or produced in the last 10 years. Liam Neeson, who's part of a group of oil company workers whose plane crashes in Alaska, and they're being pursued by wolves. But it's not really about wolves. And so this little 12-minute little YouTube video breaks it down and ties it to Viktor Frankl. So man's struggle in the face of, in this case, the struggle of somebody who has nothing to live for. So some of the key things of that are the question of what is the meaning of life? What is, and for Viktor Frankl, it's kind of flipped around. In other words, to the thing, if you don't get to ask life, what is the meaning of life? Turn it around the other way and imagine that life is asking you, what is the meaning of your life? And so if you take that approach and you have a search, that the purpose of your life is to give it meaning, then that will kind of guide you towards something to have meaning in your life. And then that's a good segue into almost all of Jordan Peterson things, Jordan Peterson's talks on YouTube. We'll talk more about that. But so let's just kind of deconstruct a little bit on Viktor Frankl. So he had a good life, Jewish psychiatrist. He's probably pretty sharp. I don't know about before the camps, but he had been developing his theory or his teachings called logotherapy before he got arrested. And once he got arrested, once he was in camp, he started observing some people died and some people didn't die. And they're all in the same environment. And he was kind of thinking, why is it that some people die and some people don't die? And then that kind of leads to, well, what is it that's causing people to die? Well, some people would get sick and die. Some people would be killed by the Nazis because they just wouldn't cooperate. And other people would commit suicide. So he started, thinking about that. Why is it that some people get sick and other people don't get sick? Why is it that some people act in a certain way that gets them beaten to death by the Nazis and other people don't? And why is it that some people decide it's just not worth it and they quit? And then at some point he latched on to something Nietzsche had said, which is, to paraphrase, he who has a why to live can figure out almost anyhow, or can bear almost anyhow to live. So if you have a reason, so Viktor Frankl kind of came to this conclusion, if there's a reason for you to survive, you'll do it. Now, getting into week number 2, next week, we're going to learn about the reticular activation system. And so you could tie that to if you have a belief that it's important to live, or if you have a belief that you will live, the reticular activation system is going to scan all information available to us to support that belief. And it's going to guide us towards that, sort of as Jordan Peterson says, once you have your highest aim, that's going to pull you towards it once you know what that is. And so for Viktor Frankl, he observed that the people who had a reason to live, they lived. They didn't get sick. In fact, he goes on for many pages of talking about how one of the parts is how people surprisingly didn't get gum disease, even though they're not brushing their teeth and bathing, and they didn't have the ability to have showers, and they weren't issued uniforms, and walking through the snow, and getting your clothes off of dead bodies, type of thing. Filthy, horrible conditions, and some people didn't get sick and die, other people did. And the common denominator was whoever had a reason to live, people who had a why to live, could bear almost anyhow. And so for our people, for struggling adults, what I've observed in the last 6 years of teaching in class, 10,000 hours of teaching in class with people in jail and prison primarily, or in shelters, is that there are some people who've given up. And probably most people have thought about giving up. And maybe most people have kind of given up at some point because here they are. They're in our class, they're in our program. They're not at Stanford or Carnegie Mellon over there. They're not there. They're where they are, or where we are. And I think if we latch on to if you have a why to live, if you have something to live for, you'll figure out how, or you can bear almost anyhow. And so for Viktor Frankl, then life is a search for finding the meaning, because if you have a reason to live, if there's a purpose, if you have meaning in your life, you're going to make it through life. And I think if we add on top of that a lot of the Jordan Peterson stuff of once you have that meaning, more than the reticular activation system scanning all information to support that belief, I think Jordan Peterson is much more, once you have that, it's going to pull you towards it. And so back to the title of Viktor Frankl's book, life, is a search for meaning, man's search for meaning. And without meaning or purpose in your life, you're not going to make it. So our program is, it doesn't work. You can't teach people to be successful if they don't have a why, of why they want to be successful. We have a lot of people that start, not a lot, we have a number of people that start class like their arms across their chest, either virtually or in reality, with an attitude of, you can't force me to learn. Okay, so if we apply the Viktor Frankl search for meaning, these are people who are basically saying, I reject having meaning in life. I'm going to continue going down my path, which might be self-pity, blaming everyone else, blaming the world, and that's just not productive. So what we need to do in our classes, we have to find meaning. And an exercise that we'll do that Jordan Peterson does, so maybe we'll do a video tomorrow or next week on the Jordan Peterson one. But for Jordan Peterson, it was to, again, to paraphrase, just to imagine, to picture, what is the highest thing you could accomplish in 3 years? What is the highest aim that you could actually achieve in the next 3 years? What is it? And Jordan Peterson will say, and you get to decide. Whatever it is you want, think of what is the highest aim that you could possibly achieve, that you could reasonably achieve, that you could achieve in the next 3 years. What's the highest aim? And it's going to be different for everyone. And then he asks the question, says to ask yourself the question, well, what could I do that's better than that? And the answer should be nothing, because if you can do something better than that, then what you said first wasn't the highest possible aim that you could achieve. But if you say, okay, so what's the highest possible aim I could achieve? And then ask, is there something I could do that's better than that? The answer should be no. If the answer is yes, then modify your answer to the first one. And then to say, then ask yourself the question, well, what could I do? What should I do? Or what's more important than pursuing that aim? What do I have to do that's better than doing that? And the answer should absolutely be nothing. Nothing is better than pursuing the highest possible aim that I could achieve in the next 3 years. So then he's saying this, so then you should devote your time to achieving that aim. Flip it back, apply that to Viktor Frankl. Now do you have a why to live? Well, the why to live would be to accomplish the highest aim that I can accomplish. Okay, now I have a meaning. And so reticular activation system is going to kick in. That's going to be my belief, and I'm going to dedicate my life to it. That'll be my belief. And so what's going to happen is my reticular activation system is going to bring to my attention, to my awareness, things that lead me towards that goal. Or, as Jordan Peterson would say, it's now going to draw me towards that thing, towards that goal that I want to achieve. And at that point, if we can get to that point, or if you, a student of ours, can get to that point where you have pictured what it is, what your highest goal is, that you've realized there's nothing higher, you have nothing better to do than to pursue that, and you've committed to pursuing that, now the stuff that the tools and techniques that we want you to learn, you will figure out a way to learn them. You'll put in the time, you'll put in the commitment, you'll put in the devotion, you'll be motivated, you will get that done. And you're going to find as you get that done, you're going to feel you have even more meaning and purpose. Dopamine is going to kick in, other neurotransmitters, serotonin. If you're doing things in a group, you're going to start bonding, and oxytocin is going to kick in, and all good things are going to happen. So our program really starts with the foundation of Viktor Frankl. And if you could, when you're feeling bad, when you're hard timing it, if you say to yourself, well, would I rather be where I am right now, as bad as it is, maybe homeless, maybe in a shelter, maybe, who knows where, would I rather be here, or would I rather trade places with Viktor Frankl and be in a Nazi concentration camp where I'm not around people who are indifferent to my survival, or might take, might make them feel a little bit better. My hardships might make them feel a little bit better, but would I rather be where I am right now, or in a Nazi concentration camp where there are people actively pursuing my death, that they don't care whether I live or die. In fact, there's actually, the purpose of the camp is to help people die or kill them. So would I rather be here or there? And I think if you say, well, I'd rather be here, now you have like the starting point, the little spark that you can build on. I'd rather be where I am today. So now I've got something to build on, because Viktor Frankl's world was pretty grim. A lot of what we need to do in school is not just the 3 hours we're in class, but it's the rest of the day around that, to be anticipating what we're going to do in class, to be reviewing what we did do in class, and to focus on our purpose for the program, which is to help struggling adults learn the tools and techniques to be successful. And I think if you think about that, and once again, when you put it as a belief that, hey, here's what's going to happen as a result of my being in this program, I will learn the tools and techniques of success. I'm going to know what success is, so I'm going to know what to go after. And once I know what to go after, then I will be successful. And then I have a belief. And once I have that belief, my reticular activation system is going to constantly scan all information available to me, things I can hear, see, smell, taste, touch, etc. It's going to scan all information that's available to me, kind of like at the airport where you're doing whatever you're doing, and then in the background, there's always the would so-and-so go to a white courtesy phone, and the second your name is mentioned, bam, you hear it. That's what the reticular activation system is going to do. Once you have a belief, it's going to constantly scan all information available to you to support that belief. So it's going to bring it to your awareness. Jordan Peterson says, once you have that locked in, it's not only going to come to your awareness, it's going to pull you towards it. And then Jordan Peterson also says, not only that, you're not going to see other things. They're literally not going to be visible to you. You won't see other stuff. So if you have a belief of, I can't type, if that's your belief, I think Jordan Peterson would say, well, that's what you're going to see. What you're going to see is the errors that you make in typing. You're not going to see the non-errors. You're going to see the errors. You're going to see the problems. You're going to see the things that support your belief. On the other hand, if you believe, I can't type yet, I think if we apply Jordan Peterson's thing, what you see is the progress that you're making. And the other stuff, literally, you don't see. You don't see the mistakes, you see the progress. So Viktor Frankl is the foundation of what we do. Is essential. And I would say Jordan Peterson is the springboard that is attached to the foundation. So good luck, everyone. Thank you for being there. I will see the Las Vegas people today at 4, and of course our Las Vegas Casa Grande people in about 30 minutes. Thank you.